The most important thing you can do right now to support the creation of a vital, vibrant, and healthy life is to begin a systematic exploration of the meanings you hold about who you are, why you're here, and what you're capable of. The most significant thing you can do to begin to activate your innate creative power and your abundance is to untangle yourself from old collective and personal beliefs about lack and limitation.
You're listening to Quantum Revolution with Karen Curry Parker, exploring new frontiers in consciousness, science, and evolution. Join us in intimate conversations with cutting-edge scientists, spiritual leaders, artists, disruptors, and visionaries who are working towards reframing the narrative of our future by healing the rift between spirituality and science, reclaiming creativity, and laying the foundation for a new world. And now, here's your host, Karen Curry Parker.
When I first got divorced from my first husband many years ago, I felt very sorry for myself. I had good reason to be sad. I was grieving. I was terrified. I had 4 children. I'd gotten married at 19 and had been married for all of my adult life. Suddenly, I was adulting with 4 children by myself, and I didn't know what to do. My ex-husband refused to pay child support and moved across the country to live with his parents, leaving me alone to figure out how to provide for and take care of our 4 children ranging in age from 5 to 11. Before my ex moved away, we had one final big fight about money. I was furious that he was moving away to live in his parents' house where he got all the support he needed, and I was left by myself to figure out how to take care of our kids and pay the bills. My ex's parting shot at the end of our big blowout was to get right up into my face and scream that he was not responsible for my abundance. Now, before you get too upset with this story, I want to clarify that this statement that my ex made before he left was actually one of the biggest gifts that anyone has ever given me. I also want to let you know that my ex-husband is a no-motors projector, and at that time in his life was so burned out from living with 5 generator types that there was no way he could provide for us. We did eventually heal our relationship, and I now count him as one of my dearest friends. I also want to make sure that you know that we both did things to destroy our marriage, and I was, for sure, no innocent victim in this scenario. After he left, as I stated at the beginning of this story, I felt very sorry for myself. I felt abandoned and very alone. I was also terrified about money and how to figure out how to be both mom and dad. How was I going to have a home-cooked meal on the table every evening, sit with the kids and do homework, and make sure that all the bills were paid? As I worked to figure out my new reality, I grieved. I cried. I got angry. I felt bitter. I was terrified. I traveled through the full spectrum of letting go and beginning the process of redefining who I was. Everything in my life was disrupted. But it was also kind of juicy, although it took me a while to appreciate that part of the journey. I remember one particularly powerful moment of realizing that I could paint my walls whatever color I wanted, and I could own colorful dishes and plates of my own choosing. No more white walls, and no more boring white plates for me. But, as I said, it took a while for me to get to that part of the journey. As I processed my grief, I started developing what I might call self-pity habits. I listened to a lot of Dave Matthews songs and eventually landed on a nightly routine of rushing the kids to bed so I could pour myself a glass of red wine, crank up Dave Matthews' breakup songs, and feel very, very sorry for myself. This became so much of a routine and habit that I started to be able to predict exactly at what point in the song Grace Is Gone I would start crying. I also got very good at telling my very sad story to my friends and even on teleclasses with my students. Again, the retelling of my tragedy became pretty habituated, and I realized at a certain point that I was literally using the same practice phrases and sentences in the same way at the same point in the story as I shared my drama over and over again with others. You might think that this eventually would push people away, but instead, I developed a core set of bitter friends who had had similar stories, and on girls' night, we got together and basically drank wine and rehashed the same stories with each other again and again and again. Remember that my ex-husband's parting shot was the statement that he was not responsible for my abundance. After he left, I replayed the sentence and saw in my mind's eye the anger on his face as part of my nightly ritual. I didn't want to be responsible for my own abundance. I was still untangling myself from the cultural narrative around gender roles. I wanted a man to take care of me. I wanted someone else to pay the bills and manage our finances. I was still very much in love with the idea that taking care of my family's support and sustenance was going to be impossibly hard and very, very tragic. And that I had been abandoned to do the job of a man while being a woman. I didn't want to be abundant. I also didn't want to have to confront my own self-worth and how failing at marriage had damaged my own sense of value and success, both by society's standards and by the standards of my own family of origin. And I was scared. I didn't know how to make a business a success. At that time, there weren't many people that I was aware of who were making a good living doing service-based work in the world. All the gifted healers and speakers and coaches I knew were broke and struggling with epic stories of martyrdom and struggle. How was I going to be responsible for my own abundance without compromising on who I was and what I did for a living? It seemed to me the only option was to get a job as a nurse and try to make ends meet as best I could. These thoughts just kept me stuck in my self-pity loop. Until one day, for some bizarre and mystical reason, I sat down on the couch with Dave Matthews and my glass of cheap, bitter red wine and realized how pitiful I was being. My little self-pity ritual had become, oh, so very rote and frankly boring. I realized that feeling sorry for myself was way safer than cultivating the courage I needed to step into my power, my brilliance, and my abundance. Plus, like it or not, I had bills to pay. It was time for a shift. Again, I heard my ex-husband's voice telling me that he was not responsible for my abundance. And somehow, this time, I heard it differently in my head and in my heart. I realized that liberating me from being tied to his abundance was actually a huge gift. What if my capacity for abundance was more than his? What if my energy to create was more than his? What if I could be responsible for my own abundance in a way that was true to myself, my vision, and my purpose, and I could lavishly support my growing family? And what if I could do it and still be done working at 3 p.m. so that I could drive, do homework, be with the kids, and make a home-cooked meal every evening for my family? To truly embody the answer to these questions, I had to let go of the old story. I was not who I used to be, and that woman, that wife person, was never coming back. Secondly, I had to figure out who was this new woman I was becoming. What did I want? How did I want to be? Where did I need to release any old narratives where I had somehow internalized the idea that it wasn't okay or safe or abundant for me to be who I am and how I am? This isn't an overnight process. Before you can reframe and reclaim sovereignty over the story you tell the world about who you are and how you are, you have to finish grieving the loss of your old stories, even if they were limiting stories. You can't just leap into creating a new story without going through the emotional process of sadness and, eventually, acceptance. But when the story you tell becomes so practiced and rote, and you hear yourself saying phrases like, yes, but, or I can't because, and you finally realize that you actually can, it's time to write a better story. The biggest challenge you face when taking back control of your personal narrative and reclaiming your natural creative power is to figure out exactly what stories you're telling and which parts of your story do you need to change in order to activate your potential and improve the quality of your life. If the story about who you are creates your experience of reality, then the most important question you need to be asking yourself is, who is the you creating your life? The answer to this question is creating every aspect of your life right now. The most important thing you can do right now to support the creation of a vital, vibrant, and healthy life is to begin a systematic exploration of the meanings you hold about who you are, why you're here, and what you're capable of. The most significant thing you can do to begin to activate your innate creative power and your abundance is to untangle yourself from old collective and personal beliefs about lack and limitation. One of the many reasons why I love quantum human design is it is a powerful system that can help you explore your personal narrative in a systematic, step-by-step way so that you discover who you are, how you operate, and how to begin telling yourself and the world a more aligned, authentic story that matches what you want for your life. I tell my students and clients that quantum human design is a powerful tool that can help you rewrite your story, but it's not the only tool. Honestly, I don't care how you learn to rewrite your personal story as long as you do it. And do it in a way that gives you a story that liberates you and helps you cultivate the courage to be the person you were born to be. Did my life shift on a dime once I began to explore a better story? No. It took time, awareness, repetition, and a lot of falling down before I got a solid handle on my new story. But eventually, I realized that the only way out of the story I was trapped in, and the only way to show my children something better, was to do the work. Rewrite my story and tell a better story about what I deserved and what was possible. If you'd like some help kickstarting a better story for yourself, get your free quantum human design chart at freehumandesignchart.com. You can also learn more about rewriting your personal narrative or helping others do this important work by downloading my free ebook, The Practitioner's Guide to Holistic Healing, Beyond the Basics of Human Design. To get a free copy of this guide, simply join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/QHD group. I'm Karen Curry Parker. Thank you for listening to Quantum Revolution. Here's to better stories of possibility, fulfillment, and abundance.
Thank you for joining us on Quantum Revolution with Karen Curry Parker. For more information on how to change your world, visit quantumrevolutionpodcast.com. Make sure you follow us on your favorite podcasting platform so you don't miss a single episode of Quantum Revolution. We'll see you next time for some more groundbreaking conversations with Karen and her guests. How will you impact your world today?